This is a subject that I will not shut up about when talking to game designers, when talking to producers, with pretty much anyone. I spend a little bit too much time playing these kind of games, from PUBG to Minecraft to an obnoxious amount of time spent in Rust. And today I want to talk about, or maybe convince you to think a little bit differently as game designers, because typically we will start off any kind of game design conversation from content, right? We like to plan things. We like to make sure that players experience what we intend them to experience. So with that short intro, hi, I'm Alex Nichiporchik. I'm the CEO of tinyBuild. I am a gamer for most of my adult life. I'm 34 and I've been gaming for 30 years. And I actually started really early in journalism when I was 14. So technically I have 20 years of game dev experience and a lot of gray hair. So let's start off with a simple question. Which games made you cry? Out of sadness or out of joy? Typically, when you ask this, you're going to have the usual suspects, like the opening of The Last of Us, or the first 3 hours of Last of Us 2, right? Or you might remember the final fight in Metal Gear Solid 3, which always makes me cry, right? Or most recently, I actually finally beat the Walking Dead Telltale series, and yeah, Clementine turns into a zombie. Spoilers. It made me cry. But it makes you cry in the way that the game designers have intended. And there is nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of single-player games and narrative-driven experiences out there. It's just that my problem with them is that they're expensive. They're extremely expensive to make. And I'm looking at the not-for-broadcast guys here, talking about expensive. So these guys right here, they made a full motion video game called Not for Broadcast, which is a narrative-driven experience. And it is right now the highest rated game, full motion video game on Steam. But again, it's a very expensive approach to game development. Now, let's think about which unscripted games have made you cry. And by unscripted, I mean, what were the situations in games that the designers did not intend for, yet had the systems that made you cry? And usually you would hear something like Minecraft, and we'll go through some examples. I have a personal favorite, and I'm going to be using this video as a reference to the video in the next slide, as a reference to explain what Rust is, and then how it makes players like me cry, or players like me make other players cry. So let's just watch this short video.
This game is Rust. I've been dabbling in it. It's quite fun. You start with nothing. You start with a rock, hit a few trees, build a spear, kill the bastards, steal their loot, make better weapons, kill more bastards.
What the heck?
Until you finally meet someone who's bigger and better than you. So you've lost everything you've got and you have to start again with nothing. Okay, so now you understand why people build themselves bases to stash their loot. And half of the fun of this game is to infiltrate the base and steal the loot.
So now, it's an open world game where I call it fair rules, right? Where you can actually have social mechanics to negotiate with other players, and there is nothing preventing you from killing other players. So in this presentation, I'm going to hopefully prove that these kind of games can create real in-game emotions. And here is the emotion from that video, which, by the way, has 16 million views on YouTube. So this might be loud because it has a lot of crying. What is happening here in the video that I'm about to show in this one is the player snuck into another player's base and is trying to bust himself out with all of the loot. And the player who owns the base is using social engineering. He's pretending to cry to negotiate with the other player and make him feel bad. So here's how it looks.
These are actually fun. Oh, she's actually crying. I feel bad.
At the end of the presentation, we'll see how that story concludes. It has some more interesting gameplay mechanics. But then, even in my own video archive, I actually found this video from, I think it's 4 years ago, where me and that guy, Nikita, are playing PUBG. And it's just such a powerful and emotional moment that when rewatching it, it can't not put a smile on my face. Here's our little short clip in PUBG, and there might be loud shouting in Russian.
Чуваки, тормози, прям слева, чуваки. Вон там за забором, прям вот здесь вот. Вот тут за следующим забором, вот тут чувак будет.
Нокнул.
Я не знаю, где другой. О, боже! Подожди, это были мы? Или это наш бусик или нет?
Нет, я посмотрю DevGAMM.
This is me activating the DevGAMM
Или это
to
не
see
наш?
what
Я
happened.
надеюсь, что это не наш. Если это наш, то это совсем позор.
Это был не наш бусик.
Вау.
Это, помнишь, мы проехали бусик, он сидел в нем.
That's our van driving up, and he's just sitting in the other van.
И вот видишь,
Боже мой.
да,
Страйк.
да.
So, in my opinion, it's our job as game designers to create these kind of powerful moments. Which is why I think it's going to be important to convince you as to why we need to think about real emotions and systems and etc. So with that, we need to contextualize, in essence, what are we all striving for, right? When we're making games, well, are we striving for fame on Twitter? I really like this meme because whenever there are developers promoting hashtag gamedev on Twitter, it feels like all of the game dev communities just liking each other. But then, you might say that we're competing for the Steam top charts, which can be true, right? Because it's really nice to be up there. I actually think it's much more complex than that. I believe that we're competing not just with other game developers or entertainment systems, we're competing with everything, including sleep. So how do we, as game designers, make it so that you will want to wake up at 2 a.m. because you got a notification on your phone that someone is stealing your shit? That is the question. Because I do believe that time is money. If we look at the evolution of the industry and distribution platforms, it used to be that we had retail, we would buy a box and we would play that game. Then we have digital distribution. Now we have streaming services. Now we have subscription services. And the unique thing between all of those services is the more players spend time in your product on that service, the more successful you're going to be. And then if you look at these kind of games made by relatively small teams, V-Rising is an indie team. Most of their assets are actually from the asset store. PUBG was made by a small team within Bluehole. Minecraft was made by just one guy initially, and Rust is operated by a relatively small team in the UK. Yet, if you contextualize that with time is money, and then compare it with the Steam top charts, right here, if you take a closer look, we have the Counter-Strike, the Dotas, the Lost Arks. All of those are free-to-play games leading up to GTA 5. Well, we all know GTA 5, right? And then for some reason, Wallpaper Engine. And then the last two are Ark and Rust. These are very similar games, and they're always there. If you look at the top charts at any given time, it's always within that amount. And then if you look at the console versions of this one, even though the information is not officially public, what I do is I launch them on Xbox, and then I just check the player counts on the servers, right? And that gives me an estimate, and I stop counting after about 50K CCUs that I see within that server list. And then the more time people spend in your games, the more free marketing you get, because inevitably, when people continue to play your game, obviously, you get more free marketing. Okay, the fonts are a little bit messed up here. The question is, what is emergent gameplay? And within our portfolio, we have a few examples, but instead of talking about our own games, I decided to ask Twitter on what is emergent gameplay. And we had a few interesting replies here. Like people say that it's about systems, it's about making player choices, it's about meaningful choices and experiences that are not necessarily decided by the player. It's maybe it's gameplay mechanics that are invented by the players and used in the way that we do not intend. I think all of those are true, and then the deeper you go into this rabbit hole, you start to think about things like, well, okay, then the whole physics comedy subgenre is kind of emergent gameplay, which is true to a definition, but then you can say the same thing about the roguelike procedural subgenre, where you can infinitely replay games like Streets of Rogue or Nuclear Throne or many others. And then you can apply the same logic and say that social/deduction games like Among Us or Secret Neighbor are also emergent gameplay. Well, I don't necessarily agree with all of those because they have elements of emergent gameplay in the same way that genres mold together a lot. Then you go into MMO survival games, which I think is what we're going to focus on for the purposes of this presentation, because if you drill it down and distill it to its purest form, there are 4 main components here, including unique situations, flexible definitions of win, and essentially focus on content created by the players. And if I was to choose just one of those, I would say that emergent gameplay is defined by the player deciding when they win. Because in most games, we have a win condition, right? You know, in PUBG, you're the last person staying alive. But then you look at games like Minecraft, you go, oh, how do I win Minecraft? Well, not many people get to the last boss in the Nether, and when it came out, there was no such thing as bosses. So how do you win in games like that? Well, you do that by giving players tools to focus on the things that they enjoy and creating unique and flexible situations. And as soon as I get into this discussion with most game designers, especially when we're just brainstorming on features, etc., we get into what I refer to the content grind trap. Because whenever you get into that discussion, you start talking about scope and features, and then inevitably you design your first prototype with a corridor that you walk through in a scripted way, and then a thing happens, and then you lock yourself into 3 years of development cycle because you have focused on content and not systems. So I was trying to find the very first example of a viral unscripted event that has happened in a game in recent memory. Because there's many things that have happened in Ultima Online days that are irrelevant at this point. So let's take a look at this video. It's a video with many millions of views where a guy is trying to explain how to make a fireplace in Minecraft.
Cool. So yeah, apparently all you need is some flint and a log, just to chop down tree bit of log. All you do is you put it in the center here like this, and then set a fire to it. Now, not always, but most of crap. Sorry guys, this is not supposed to happen. Oh my god. Crap. Oh, no way. Yeah. What the hell just happened? You have got to be kidding me. This is not even funny. Seriously? Oh my god. I don't understand what happened. I thought I lit a log, or yeah, I lit a log in here. Oh crap. Yeah, that's all for now, guys.
So that's one of the earliest examples, and 10 years later, it's still funny, right? This video has been made in 2010, so 12 years ago now. And when you design things like that, the question is how to market it, right? Because in any kind of project kickoff or a brainstorm meeting, marketing always gets involved, right? Those goddamn marketing people, this guy. And then we go like, well, how do we sell it? And to be honest, this video is a prime example of how to sell it. Because remember the video of the crying kid that I showed in the beginning of the presentation? Well, when you look at the Rust Steam page here, and yeah, if you look at the trailer, what it does is it explains the features of the game. You wake up on the beach, naked, of course. Of course, you have a rock. You hit some trees with the rock. You hit some rocks with rocks. Then you craft, and then it shows you what the systems are and how you can progress within the game. And in my opinion, it does an absolutely terrible job of explaining to you that you can make someone cry in this game. It doesn't do a good job of explaining to me why I'm going to spend 1,000 hours in it. I actually have 12,000 in that game, which is kind of crazy. So then, if you're looking to design a game like that, this is not what you should be looking at. What you should do is go to YouTube and check the most viewed videos on this specific game. And I'm going to continue using Rust as an example because 4 months ago, a YouTuber named Zchum has made a video that absolutely blew the minds of the creative community. What they do here, and the video has over 6 million views in just 4 months, right? That's crazy. What they do in this video, I'm going to show you a short clip of it, is they design trap bases, right? And the game doesn't tell you that you can do this. So what they do is they design a very specific type of trap base, and they essentially go fishing. They put all of these trap bases out in the map for players to go like, oh, convenient, someone abandoned this base, I'm going to build up within it, and then they're going to spawn within the base, and you're going to see what happens here. Okay.
The plan was simple. On wipe day, we would all log in together the moment the server wiped, and we'd get to work building as many trap bases around the map as possible. We try to put them near big monuments and high traffic areas for a better chance of them being taken over by some absolute chads. The trap base design was pretty simple. We would start off with a 2x2 like this, and then surround it with raised triangle foundations, which will create kind of a false floor that we can hide below. We stone up the foundations, and then we add walls and a ceiling, and we stone all that up too. Next, I like to stone up 2 of the foundations and then get rid of the other 2. This is going to leave us some room to place sleeping bags. Once the bags are placed, I build 2 twig half walls and a floor above everything. This floor gets stoned up, and now it looks like just an ordinary 2x2. Except I can spawn underneath it. Once the new base inhabitants are cozy upstairs, I can spawn in, break these 2 walls with my rock, and we're in. And then he shot us from his roof with a Tommy gun.
Preston went hard.
Dude, look at this base.
Preston.
Break into his base.
Are you spawning under Zchum?
I'm listening.
Let me take this. Let's go!
All together, boys!
No.
Wait, I hear him. Wait. Hello?
I heard him for a sec too.
Do you have any tools?
Please let us in. We need to secure this.
Okay, do it. Do it. He's alive! What the fuck? He's killing me! I'm dead.
I'm dead too.
Can I get that tool?
Oh no. Oh no. No, that sucks.
Our first attempt had failed, but we decided to count down from 3 and all spawn back in right at the same time. 2, 1, go. Go.
How the fuck did y'all do this?
What do you mean?
No, bro, how the fuck did y'all do this?
We got him.
Yes, pick up pump.
Get up. Get the fuck up. Get the fuck up.
Dude, they're loaded. They're fucking
Let me see.
They're loaded.
Oh!
Oh my god! Dude, look at the tees.
God.
Look at the tees.
Where?
Right here.
Where?
This one here.
Look in this corner, boys. Look in the corner.
Where?
Oh my gosh.
So what you're seeing there, they're going through the loot, right? And that represents maybe 20, 30 hours that the player who took over that base, who didn't know that there was a trap under it, spent 20, 30 hours on gathering loot, crafting materials, progressing in the game, and these guys just spawn under and take it. And then the rest of the video is them spending like 5 minutes on explaining to the guy how they did so that they don't get reported for cheating. Now, this kind of stuff is really inspiring for creators because the game is not intended to be played that way, but it creates content that you actually want to share and therefore get millions of views. And then if you have the right tools in place, what you can do is try and translate those emotions in ways that we as game developers maybe don't have the skills or don't have the time or creativity. So here is an intro video into one of the popular videos by a YouTuber named Frost. Let's take a look.
I would say early morning is the quietest and the safest time of the day to move weight, especially when you're trying to get all the way across the map. I'm talking early morning. No cracks of gunfire, large furnaces are off, no minicopters in the sky. You need it to be quiet. And if you do it at the right time, it'll be the easiest ride home of your life. Unless the weight that you're moving isn't yours. So yeah, we fucked up. And when you fuck up as hard as we did, sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet. That is Kai. And we took his shit.
That's the intro to video by Frost named House of Cards. I highly recommend you watch it because the gameplay that they recorded in that video, it was so powerful as a revenge story with this guy Kai that they felt inspired to make that kind of intro. But then if you don't if you don't have the resources to go for that route of creating tools for cinematography, just think about simple systems, right? I'm going to use another PUBG example. This is a clip from Erasable Ninja on YouTube, where he just discovered that if you have the right closing in PUBG early on, right now you don't because they made it free to play, but in the early days, you could essentially blend in with the environment, and that caused for a lot of really interesting shenanigans moments, which even though this game does have a definition of win, in my opinion, in this clip, the YouTuber definitely wins by doing things like this.
Enemy patrol dead ahead. Patience. Don't do anything stupid. This'll get messy. Whew, that was a close one. I'll say one thing. You certainly got the minerals. Hold your fire. Don't move. There's no quiet way out of this one. It's your move.
Paint a picture just like that. Just like cause what you want, you have it just
In the context of that video, he essentially just had a frying pan and just sat there next to a Jeep, waited for a team to come in, and just killed them all with a frying pan, right? That's the definition of win. So then, when you do all of this, the final thing that we need to talk about, outside of the main KPI that I believe you should all focus on, which is time spent, is the feeling of stakes. The feeling of stakes is kind of difficult to explain in traditional game design because technically your progression in an RPG would be the feeling of stakes. It would be whatever loot you gather in a match or whatever guns you have found in a battle royale. Minecraft has done it in the form of your stakes are you spend time in creating your perfect house, or when you do like a whole mining excavation thing and then a bunch of creepers spawn and mess with what you have done with your logistics. That's the feeling of stakes. Games like Warzone did really well by innovating on the Battle Royale genre with their respawn, the Gulag mechanic. But I believe that real stakes come with real pain. So in the example that we had in the beginning, this video, by the way, has over 16 million views. It's about how do you make it so that you are compelled to be doing real social engineering by what sounds like a 12-year-old. So in this clip right here, we're going to, let me just check. Did I mess up? There we go.
I want to break free.
So the player is trying to break out.
In that my brother is once again, for the second time, going to get away with all his loot. He decides he has to come up with an idea, and it's actually quite clever.
Paper and scissors. 3 out of 3. Guy who wins gets all the shit. If I win, I get.
Hurry up, Sammy! What the hell?
So what's happening here is the player is trying to break out of the base with all of the loot, and this kid is trying to stall for time. Because if he stops punching that wall with the pickaxe for just a few minutes, the owner of the base will be able to repair that wall. So he comes up with a game of rock, paper, scissors to stall for time.
Okay, remember it's 3 out of 3.
Okay.
3 out of 3.
Okay.
And this time for real, you gotta write, oh fuck. Okay, you gotta say it.
Alright.
Correctly time. When I say rock, paper, scissors, then you say you want to say.
Okay.
It has to be rock and paper and scissors.
So after scissors or after scissors? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, rock.
Paper. That's 1-0 to me.
What the f***? That doesn't count.
Why?
Why are you cheating?
How can I cheat?
And now watch, he has his timer running, and he's about to run for the wall.
It must be the lag that's making you think there's cheating. I said it at the same time. Let's get the
There we go.
airdrop, man.
The timer has run out, and he's trying to reach for the wall to kick it. So he used social engineering to try and prevent this wall from being broken
Right,
into.
you died.
No, do not kill me. No, my friend. We can get there.
Alright guys, so this is the end of our story, and I'm
Now, that's not the way the game is intended to be played, right? And the game designers have actually talked about this video in depth about how they didn't want to create situations where you know whom to trust, right? Real trust comes with real stakes, and then when you trust someone, well, things like this can happen. And finally, I want to end this well, we all know that we're busy, right? We don't have that much time to play, especially people with families. And I got caught a couple of months ago spending 7 hours on a raid in Rust. What happened here was we were raising these this base that was surrounded by protection by turrets, and we counted 37 landings of a minicopter. So a landing of a minicopter, which you will see here, you'll just see the crashes that we have. Every single time you buy a minicopter in the game, it can take you maybe an hour of time, give or take. So we had just poured hours of time into trying to get this base raided, and then another team continues to raid us, as in counter raid us. So they come in and they try to finish what we start, try to take our loot, and it's just the definition of insanity for 7 hours until at the end of this clip, there is a scene where we see them taking off on their minicopter and we realize where they live. So they were transferring loot back to their base, and that's how we, quote-unquote, won that thing. Even though we didn't get anything for it, except maybe some loot, it really felt like an emotional investment. This is me playing with my friend TK, whom we stream together with.
Oh. You okay? Yep.
That's landing again, landing again.
Guys, fuck off. Hey guys,
just
fuck
crash
off.
into him, crash into him.
Yep. They're both in goddamn. Aw. Aw, you little bitch. Jump. Hello.
This is like a 3-hour raid. I'm dizzy at this point. Oh, Mini. Taking off.
This is where we see that they're actually taking off on their own main counter, and they're going to the base. And this me being a terrible shot.
Oh, man, it's not gonna work. Oh, I hit it once. Not chasing.
He crashed.
Oh, he crashed, yep. Myself out.
And then we just bust into their base, crack it open, and they lose because they have nowhere to respawn. So that is why I believe emergent game design is very, very important, amongst many other things. And we should think on systems versus content, because that way we can create experiences that I'm just like really, really willing to share, and share it with my friends, with all of you here, and driving the cost of marketing and production down. So with that, I am more than happy to discuss your emergent game pitches, and happy to answer questions if there are any. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your lecture. So if you have any questions, we have microphones in the middle of the hall. So please come here and ask. And I will start with a small, simple question. You talk about some games that are popular and everybody playing them, and they're totally really has good quality. But some games also trying to make this emergent gameplay, some survival games that not succeed. What's the difference between these games? Because their games have emergent gameplay, that games has emergent gameplay.
Well, it's about how do you market the game, right? So if your game is built to create really unique videos that go viral, that have these moments that feel unique to the players, then you're succeeding. And then the question is, how do you make sure that people, once they start playing, they continue playing, right? It's that feeling that you really want to continue playing and spending more time within the game that then drives up the virality and then makes users want to share more content. Right? There's no unique example of that, but I think if you're talking about multiplayer games, there's this thing called the curse of indie multiplayer, which means that if no one's playing your game is dead. And it holds true to the same rules, I believe, where if people continue playing your game, then it's really good. And then they will attract more people, and that will chase your virality.
But to continue this topic, usually it's not like you design your marketing like, let's make the game where the people will crying and make the video about how they're crying and do some crazy things. I think something should be in the mind of the developers to start this campaign.
Well, nobody likes to watch videos of people grinding for loot, right? That's definitely a no-go. Usually people just skip that part or the game doesn't become popular. What needs to happen is that the grind creates that emotional weight for the loot that you gather within the game. And then if there is a risk of losing that loot, then that is what creates content. Because if someone's trying to steal something you have worked for hours, then that can create really powerful emotional experiences within the interaction between the players, right? And then the same thing can apply in single-player games as well, as we have seen within Minecraft. When, you know, if you have just farmed up a whole bunch of stone and then you didn't manage to build your first shelter, you know, everyone remembers their first night in Minecraft.
Okay, thank you. So, people. How about some questions about the emergent gameplay, about the Rust, about the Alex?
Yeah, if there are no questions, we'll be hanging around, and I'm more than happy to chat about this.